brakes on the train were very good.
Different machine, isn't it?
They've come in dealing with the legislative appointments and the volunteers for whatever reason. But it's been done in a way.
A lot of the train drivers were in their 70s.
And the one that threatened the doctor. And a little good way to get yourself. But they've been left to run amok for a long time, so there's probably going to find. But now they're threatening to take it to the Supreme Court, so that's going to get really interesting. I don't think you can go straight to it.
No. Well,
Even my limited.
it's just a judicial review.
Well, we did it, didn't we? Got a retired judge into, wasn't that the Gumtree? Did a review of the country.
Yeah, that's well ago.
So someone trying to shoot dogs?
They're just wasting money, really. They're costing money. The volunteers are now costing money.
And that's typical, you know, the city has done this to us.
But it's just about to get World Heritage listing and it's going through all that stuff.
Well, that combined with the fact that Peterborough's closed the steam train thing. It's just, you know.
I just worked on the car all weekend, mate. So, yeah, 5 o'clock now, Brian.
Yeah, on the clock.
Yeah, 5. Sure, we'll be fine.
That's amazing. A bit of a shake-up. Wow, that's great.
No, we don't. There's always seems to be something on. Catching up with families.
Glenn's gone away with the neighbours at
They shall do that in about 2 weekends' time.
on the other side of York Peninsula. Gowers or something.
Okay.
Just for 4 or 5 days.
Oh, lovely. While the weather's good. How nice.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nathan Shanks. I'm the Mayor of the Town of Gawler. I'd like to welcome elected members, staff, and those present in the gallery, and those that might be tuning in online. I'm just going to start with a statement of acknowledgement before we kick off. We'd like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today as a traditional lands for the Gunner people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Gunner people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Gunner people today. Okay, so we'll run through. I don't believe we have any apologies tonight. So that's the roll call and no apologies. Thank you very much. Do I have any motions to grant leave of absence at all appointments? There be none, and we have no leave of absence recorded either, and no attendance is self-explanatory. We'll now move on to public open forum, which I don't believe we've got any members to address public open forum. However, we do have a deputation. Kay, would you like to address the podium, Steve? Yeah, no worries at all. So if you just go up to the microphone there, is it turned on there, down? So you just want to press the button on the top there, or David will give you a hand there, Steve. Okay.
I'd like to say good evening to the Mayor, Councillors, and also the Chief Executive. I'm a resident of Gawler and I live pretty close to the Council Works depot. I'm here because despite 10 months of following every formal process available to a ratepayer, the situation at 13 Paxton Street remains intolerable and unresolved. To be clear on the history of this grievance, July 25 we lodged an initial written complaint regarding dust nuisance. January 26, after seeing no improvement, we followed up formally again with a written letter regarding that. February 26, we were forced to escalate this to a section 270 with a written term of review. On Thursday 26th of March, we met personally with CEO Chris Gallagher and Mayor Nathan Shanks at the gates of 13 Paxton Street to reiterate his concerns, and was advised that the 270 was not required as he could not understand the stockpiling, and assured us the site will be cleaned and he will be on site the following morning. I'm talking about Chris Keller. We've been patient and we've been diligent, yet we are still living with a site that is fundamentally not fit for purpose. The core of the problem is that council is attempting to run an industrial scale operation on a site with zero industrial infrastructure. The land is not equipped for large-scale stockpiling of materials or the storage and processing of green waste. Most critically, there is no SA water connection on this land. Managing dust suppression without a permanent water source is a physical impossibility. While a water truck is the only alternative, it is never used. I'd like to ask why are the stockpiles of dirt, mulch and wood chips not being processed through NORMA that the town of Gawler is also a partner of, sitting there stockpiling in a paddock. The town of Gawler is responsible for enforcing dust nuisance regulations across the entire region. If a resident or developer, such as Coventry Road is a great example, operated a site like this without a water connection and with dust leaving boundary, the council would more than likely issue a stop work or a fine. It is unacceptable for the council to present itself in the very rules it enforces on its own ratepayers, developers and contractors. You're attempting to manage a high impact dust site, and I'll reiterate, there is no SA water connection to this land. There is an operational failure that ensures residents and businesses will continue to suffer as long as these activities persist. When stockpiling began the Pioneer War project, there was zero consultation. What was it as a temporary project has morphed into a permanent operational hub. During the sifting of Pioneer Park, the soil was sifted into a fine silt. Dust blanketed every adjacent business and residence. My research with Heritage SA reveals that similar projects like the West End Brewery in High Marsh, the City of High Marsh utilised 24-hour fogging, misting and boundary screens. In contrast, the town of Gawler provided nothing, not even a water truck. So over the duration of that whole project. By now moving to revoke the community land status, council is attempting to formalise a nuisance. This is occurring after nearly a year of documented complaints and without the necessary environmental safeguards required for a site of this nature. Because this site lacks infrastructure, dust leaves the boundary daily. There's not a day go by where it doesn't. It settles in homes, vehicles, making outdoor areas unusable by photographic video evidence of these plumes and the resultant deposition. Local businesses are also paying the price. I've spoken with businesses in Little Paxton Street who must wrap expensive inventory, I'm talking expensive inventory here, in Gladman. And others will face frequent and costly air conditioning filter replacements and maintenance because of the dust. Council has known about these impacts on residents for years from Council Work Depot. Your own records show specific funding was allocated to manage dust and noise from Council Works Depot financial year 21. There was 41 grand allocated. 22 there was another 60 grand allocated. While Council allocated funds of 101,000 in past mitigation funding, those funds were actually spent on rubble and a sprinkler for number 9 Paxton Street. In contrast, Little Paxton Street was never even used as a stockpile yard until 2025, meaning this new high impact operation has been launched with zero dedicated infrastructure stockpiling all of the mulch, wood chips, dirt is removed immediately. I'm requesting that that is sent down to Norma where it belongs. And I urge all councillors, I urge you to go to 13 Little Paxton Street and please have a good look at this site that the town of Gawler puts its name to. It's an absolute joke. So if you can go there and walk through the whole site, don't just stand there and go to Little Paxton Street, walk through, you'll still find all the silty dust in there that's still left over from when the bones were being shaken from Pioneer Park. So please do that. The land is currently under public consultation to be revoked from community land. However, council is asking for a permanent stockpiling resource on the site that has already proven over 10 months of documented failures. It is not fit for this purpose. Revoking the land does not fix the lack of water or dust plumes entering businesses and homes. My last point here is this is by no way a complaint of the operators, the workers that work down at the depot. I believe this is a depot management policy and procedure failure and it needs to be addressed. I'd like to thank Mayor Shanks and also CEO Chris Kelly for helping me through this process and allowing us to speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Just I want to ask if there are any questions from elected members. Do you have a question for Steve? Councillor Davis?
Well, I guess my question was to staff about answering some of the questions that were raised. Is why it's not being done through Norma? Is the dust being managed? Is it fit for purpose? Just so we could get a response.
CEO, are you able just to walk us through the actions today, ongoing works we're trying to offer some alternative mitigation techniques, etc. That might answer your questions, and then I'll go back to any other elected members if they have a question directly for Steve and Kat as well.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Mayor. I guess as an overarching guide, we are absolutely working our hardest to not cause amenity nuisance. Obviously we're not working well enough at the minute, I'll take that point. We are working towards removing the dirt that was placed there during wall construction. I stand corrected, but I think there's a percentage of that's been removed. David, how much would you say has been removed of that at this point in time?
Through the chair, I don't know the exact percent, but I know that around 10 truckloads came out a couple of weeks ago. We had to stop that work due to wind swell. And I was going back to that. And there was 8 truckloads of mulch that went out today. Yep.
So the two key issues are there's dirt on the site, which I'd like to get rid of as well. We're finding uses for that material, the dirt material, around Gawler, and we do have some options for that. So we are working on that progressively. The other thing with the mulch, and I shared this with Steve today, the mulch is generated from our own manufacturing as a result of a tree limbs that we've pruned. Now clearly we're not using it fast enough, the pile has built up, and I agree with Steve that the pile's too big. We have used a number of loads today, and I'm also working with David on an option where if we can convince ourselves that it's not contaminated in any way, where we might be able to offer a service to the community, where the community might be able to access free mulch, and that would be a way of accelerating removing that material off site. So they're the two key things I think have caused us grief at the minute. When I first looked at the site with the Mayor and Stephen Kay, I agree it was quite untidy. There's been some tidying work. I think we need to do a little bit more. The goal being that we minimise, I don't know if I want a public permit right now to have none, but I want to minimise the amount of stockpiling that goes on there and certainly not have it to the quantities that is there at the minute. So we are working through it progressively, and the dust still need to work harder on because we are creating dust as we move the material. But that's something David and I will work on together as we try and get rid of that material. Thank you.
And sorry, just on the we have dust mitigation policies, etc., within, or
Well, we abide by the same rules as in trying to enforce on our developers, so we abide by the same priorities. Well, sorry, we shouldn't abide by the same rules.
did you have a follow-up question, Councillor Davis?
Yeah, just the part about normal was mentioned. Is that any thoughts on that?
My first thought, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be an extremely expensive one for us to deal with this material. Now, I know we've got options to use it within the town, so it's just about identifying those and making that happen as a priority. So that's my preference there, because it would be a very expensive exercise.
Good question, Councillor Mahoney.
Let's proceed.
Yeah, just press the top button there.
Just hold it down till the light comes on.
Oh, it won't be long.
Just
I remember
talk
hearing,
into the
I remember hearing this about when I first started council, and that was about 12 years ago. And I think I might have spoken to you about it. And is there any timing that we can give you?
So just a, I guess, a bit of a deadline on when we're hoping, what was the milestone?
Because it seems to be that we're always doing something, but we never do it.
Well, we are doing something.
I know.
Like through Mr. Mayor.
That's how the
I do appreciate it. Appreciate the comment. I do want to do some work with David and the team before I commit to that. My commitment is we're going to deal with it in a timely manner, but I don't want to can't time I'm not here and now, otherwise I'll shoot myself in the foot, undoubtedly. But my commitment is to work with David and the team and try and nail it down. If I get a date, I can share with the others.
Question, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Steve, for coming in. Just a question with regards, obviously we've got issues with the dust and obviously a bit of the noise and that. If it is managed properly, does the use of the land still sit, or have you got an issue with it being that?
It needs to be managed correctly,
Yeah.
and it's far from that. It's been a terrible experience over the last 12 months, to be honest with you. It was also part of the initial 2021-22 push for funding to mitigate the dust back then. And to be honest with you, back then it was very successful. We worked very, very collaboratively with council. The management of the depot at the time were very, very responsive. Jack also was fantastic through that process. And we managed to actually get it down to virtually no dramas whatsoever. There was dust monitoring put in, and that's when council realised that it was out of control. Unfortunately, there's been a change in leadership through the council depot over a period of time, and it's reverted back to day one. And so we've been going through this now for 5 years, 6 years, and we had a lull, which was fantastic, but this is as poor as it's ever been. So to answer your question, I don't know how you would manage that dust properly. I would have thought there would have been policies and procedures around correct practice, but when I see a loader go in to pick up concrete and all the dust with it, and just tip it all over the place, and there's plumes of concrete dust going through the air, surely one would think that you would wet it down before you pick it up, wouldn't you? But there's none of that within the thought process, and there's none of that support for the workers to be able to offer that from the depot by the looks of it. So to answer your question, no. Not at this point, because they haven't proven it.
Fair enough, appreciate that.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Moore?
Yep.
Thank you for the answer. Do I have any other questions for Steve or the CEO on this matter? There being none, I'm able just to make sure that we commit to Steve and Kay just to try to give some update or something like that in the next few weeks, just to, because obviously, you know, otherwise next monthly meeting we might see another deputation, rightfully so, and make sure that we, get that communication open, which I do appreciate. Steve reaches out to myself and Chris, so hopefully we can keep those channels open as well.
Look, can I just say, was the EPA that guided us through the 270 process? Because obviously the Gullah Council depot is not an EPA it sits underneath the radar in that space. If it was a licensed EPA site, there'd be a different conversation.
Thank you very much for those additional words. I'm going to move through the agenda. Thank you very much, Stephen Kay, for coming tonight. I know it's not easy to approach the chamber, so thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much.
No worries, thank you. Okay, moving through, we now move on to agenda items, which we have nil. We have nil petitions, and I will be looking for someone to, for confirmation of minutes. Is it the way I'm talking, or is it dropping it out? Looking for a mover for the confirmation of minutes. You're happy to move that way, Councillor Davies. You're happy to second, Councillor Lalonga. Any discussion on the minutes? There being none, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is, all those against? I'll ask it again, Councillor Lorna. Sorry, that's okay. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Oh, guys, like herding cats. Business arising from minutes, we have nil. We are now on our first decision report. Do I have to declare a conflict on this one? I don't think so, just representing council potentially.
Through Commissioner, it's not remunerated.
Okay, perfect, thank you very much. We have an officer's recommendation. Do I have any questions on this one before I look for a mover? No. Alright, I'll look for a mover. Do you have to move that way, Councillor Davies? Would you like to speak at all?
Yeah, look, I think we've got two good candidates here, but there's one that I think is quite relevant to us, so happy to move this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Do I have a second? You're happy to second, Councillor Hughes. Would you like to speak at all?
Just, I think it's really important that Gawler is represented, and part of it, especially with the growth in the northern area and the issues that school is facing, it's very important, and we support our local candidate for that as well. So yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any further discussion on this item? There be none. Councillor Davies. No, that's okay. Would you like to? Councillor Sandon?
Well, we're talking about the same thing. What is the length of the term of this position?
So this automatically will take the mayor to November this year, and then it will, because this is a supplementary election because there was a vacancy created by one of the Garrock members from Tea Tree Plaza, Lucas Jones. So there is now a supplementary election. So this will just see a spot filled, an opportunity, which we didn't have the board representation on before, and then it'll all start up again come November 2026. Does that answer your question? Perfect. Okay. If there's no further discussion, are you happy for me to put this motion?
Yep.
I'm missing something.
So, sorry, just the council is named Tea Tree Gully and not Tea Tree Plaza. That's what.
You know, I've made that mistake more than I care to admit. If I'm being completely honest. Sorry, Tea Tree Gully Council for that one. Also Great Plaza. Anyway, moving forward, I'm going to close the debate. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 1.2. Do I have any questions on this one before I look for a mover? There be none. I'm going to look for a mover now. If anyone would like to move the officer's recommendation. You're happy to move that one, Councillor Hughes. Would you like to speak at all?
Just that council's gone through the process. We did receive that one submission for the 13 Paxton Street. I think it's fairly straightforward process, and I think that this will be important for longer term as well. So happy to support the motion. Move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Bartholomew, I have a second. Would you like to speak on? Any further discussion? There be none. Councillor Hughes, are you happy for me to close the debate? I'm now going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously as well. Just moving on to the monthly finance report. Any questions on this particular report? I might throw the city on the deep end a little bit on the monthly finance report just to say what's working and what we can keep an eye out for as well. Any questions, or I might just throw it over to the CEO? Mr. CEO?
Just give me a moment, just to get to the page.
Oh, sorry. Page 58.
Right, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's got the positives to take away from this report. As we look at page 58 itself, we'll note that we're still heading in the right direction as a council. Noting that this is a point in time, and we're shortly coming to 30th of June. The kind of favourable areas. Staff wages are still tracking quite favourably. It's largely we're running with a couple of vacancies in the system. And that's partly due to some challenges in recruitment, and also just because we decided to carry the win and we managed to operate without that recruitment in place. Also heartened where we're sitting with our capital expenditure this time of year. Whilst if you look at the graph on graph 3 on page 63, it may appear that some of the projects, for example, may appear slightly behind. A lot of our expenditure comes in quite quick in the last quarter of the year, and I know I've had some updates where it's been quite heartening the amount of work we are going to be able to complete by the end of the financial year. So maybe those graphs aren't telling the whole picture, but I can assure you that the next update shows quite a lot of progress in that space. There are some things we still need to keep an eye on though. Waste disposal still keeps me up at night. Just in that can move quite quickly if not careful. So we're actively managing that. Fleet costs with the current geopolitical unrest. It appears that we aren't experiencing significant impacts at this point in time. So that's a positive note. I think we may see the material impact on physical materials. The impact on pricing may come as we go into the next financial year, but certainly in terms of fuel and our usage of that, we haven't had any negative impacts at this point in time, but a slightly higher price for diesel at 1,000. It was slightly disheartening to have to contribute another $20,000 towards a supplementary election due to underquoted from the Parliament. But maybe you have more challenges to worry about at the minute. Electrical issue, should I say. With that summary, Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to say that we are operating, I believe, slightly ahead of where we planned on being at this point in time of the year. But having said that, we're still monitoring closely to ensure we end up with our surplus result that we're forecasting.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any question, Councillor Davis?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Just firstly about the toy library. I'm just wondering about its current capacity to grow, and because it is an area we can sign up a bunch of people to the toy library. But I just wondering about the where that's at the moment.
To David.
Through the chair, it won't be operating budget surplus. The toy library membership fees are actually going to be put into an equity reserve for use for toy library operations. So whilst it may be a cash generation initially, it's kept as a surplus in the reserve to be used for the toy library. In terms of growth, we're still mapping out existing usage. It officially opened 4 weeks ago or thereabouts. Certainly growth in membership is potential, and by that growth in membership we'll be able to increase the stock available for borrowing. There's a fair bit of capacity down there, there's some yards around stock storage, which is fantastic. So we don't see an issue with growth in that nature, but it's certainly not a cash windfall for council because it's put on reserve to replace toy items, maintain and buy new.
Thank you. The other question, just around budget estimates for elections. We have a budget estimate for the upcoming election. Do we have any certainty that they have an accurate figure for us?
$250,000, if I remember correctly.
So, we'll certainly ask the question, and it's in the assurance that's correct, to the best of our knowledge.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Davies? Do I have any other questions before we look for a mover? There be none. Can I ask for a mover, please, for the officer's recommendation? You're happy to move that way, Helen? Would you like to, sorry, Councillor Hennessy, would you like to speak?
No.
No. You're happy to second, Councillor Ballon, or would you like to speak at all? No? Any further discussion? There be none, I'm going to put that motion, if that's all right, Councillor Hennessy. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously, thank you. Moving on to item 9.4, pretty self-explanatory this one. Any questions though, that you want to look for a mover? No? You're happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? Would you like to speak at all to it?
Yeah, look, I think this is one of the more important things that we could be doing right now in this political climate is sending our mayor to Canberra after the state election. If you were to have a look at the federal potential results, it may also be a marginal seat, and I think we should be out there talking about all the infrastructure issues and other things that we would like to have resolved with large amounts of money. So I happy to move this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Do I have a second there? You have a second there. Councillor Hughes, would you like to speak at all? Any discussion? There being none, you happy for me to put that motion, Councillor Davies? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 9.45. Any questions on this one before I look for a mover? No? Okay, I might look for a mover. Are you happy to move or are you happy to
Yeah, I'm happy to do both. I've got questions.
No worries. Fire away the question and we'll move into the move.
Just a question on the potentially moving to the fortnightly red bin or other ways to look at savings. If there's any discussion on that through the chair, please.
Through Mr Mayor, we've certainly had discussions around the geopolitical tensions at the minute and how unavailability of diesel will impact the collection of bins. It's certainly an option as part of risk mitigation, but we haven't explored enacting that yet because it hasn't played out in diesel. We have had our
Yeah, you sort of went into a bit more depth on the diesel ones certainly, but also, you know, reducing the collection of the red bins is also.
I think it's fair to say we haven't actively pursued at this point. I think I'm happy to put that back on the agenda. We've had another novelty. I would be concerned, putting aside costs for the minute, would be concerned about community backlash. And so I think it would need an education piece to support the change if we were to go that way. That's my initial thought about that.
Yeah, I was also thinking because of the financial impost, you know, there could be potential savings. People don't like paying high council rates, which includes the bins, and if there's reduction. I know there's a lot of households that have very little in their red bin. You know, it might be one bag, but they're really getting good at recycling and using the green bin. So
I can certainly speak to a trial in my past employment where there was two suburbs and that were trialled in terms of location, and it went exceptionally well with a couple of tweaks to a couple of households that had a larger bin to cope with some of the nuances. So it can be done. It's just about how you work with your community, I think, is the key. But certainly happy to have further conversation with you.
I think the point there is if our education piece, it's either you pay more for your waste dumping or we go to fortnightly if you a cool model to actually run through the education piece, not just how we recycle things, but picking up what you're laying down there. Did you have a follow-up question? And Councillor Hennessy looks like she's got a question too before I move to the mover. I'll have you defer, Councillor Hennessy.
No, I was just going to support what Councillor Hughes said, particularly in light of a couple of comments that have come from UCO that, you know, the costs are being challenging. It's also been a fair while since Norma has come out to actually present us. We haven't had a presentation since the new CEO, and in light of this and some other new developments that they were working on, I think it might be timely to perhaps, so at some point in the near future, have that presentation.
So just taking that as a question, are you able to...
I absolutely agree. I have booked in Norma to come and do a briefing session to council to talk to us about their draft budget in particular. But of course, we can add things onto the conversation.
Thank
So
you.
they are locked in, can't be the date, but it's certainly worth the option.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? There be none. Councillor Hughes, you have been with the motion.
Well, I don't think we've got much choice but to move the motion because we want our bins picked up. But I do think we do need to look at ways to reduce costs, and I think with the diesel issue at the moment, and I just know the number of, when you walk the streets and you look in red bins, the majority are half full. And if we can make savings for our ratepayers, I think it's really important to investigate. It's something that's been discussed and trialled elsewhere. I think people can get larger red bins or a second bin if they want to pay for that extra collection fortnight. But I do think people are really getting into recycling, which is really fantastic to see. So I think we need to try and look at ways to reduce the use of diesel as well, but also the waste collection fees as well. But happy to move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, quick question. Quick question. Just thought of I've understood it right in that the hard waste collection is done. It's paid by the town of Gawler per free service, which is utilised by ratepayers. Is that correct?
So the answer is, I think you have a question.
happy to second. Councillor Davis, would you like to speak? No? Did you have a comment? Councillor Sam?
Thank you, Mano. Maybe to the CEO, when are the bins upgraded? Is it actually, you know, when the people pick the bins up, if there's a bin with no wheels on it or holes in it, is that recorded somehow or other? Because what I've been telling the people, because just recently there's a new truck driver on, he does a fantastic job, he built it down that much, you could nearly plant a bloody plant in where it hits the ground. A number of wheels have been broken off, and I have said to the people, then just phone this number. Is that still the system, or are we going to have an upgrade? Because I do a lot of traffic around, and a lot of other towns, Goyder and that, are now getting replaced with new bins. When does that time happen with Norma?
Mr. Stephen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the current system is, yes, the problem with the bin, you call up Norma and they will process it and bring you out a new bin or repair that bin. When we talk about upgrading bins, that quite often only happens carte blanche across the municipality when, for example, if we were changing the size of a bin or we were adding a different bin to the collection cycle. So I don't envisage that the whole bolts upgraded bins occurring, but I'd encourage people to call Norma, their customer service team. And if they're still not getting the service, I'd encourage them to contact us and let us know, because we can advocate on their behalf if they're not getting the service that they get.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this one? There being Councillor Hughes, would you like to close the debate? Would you like me to put it? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That is the end of our decision reports. Moving on to our information reports, which we have nil. On to recommendations for committees. We've got the minutes there for both the Heritage Collection and Gawler Business and Economic Development Committee. Do I have any questions on any of those minutes before I look for a mover? No. I'm going to look for a mover to receive the minutes. If you're happy to move that way, Councillor Davies, would you like to speak at all?
Just to say that the Heritage exhibit next week, I'm looking forward to the opening of the Gawler Women in Wartime exhibit that they have been preparing.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Do I have a seconder? You're happy to second, Councillor Hennessy. Would you like to say anything? No. No. Is there any further discussion? There being none, Councillor Davies, I'm going to put that motion. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Alright, working through, we have item 12.1, our external bodies report. Any questions on these? You've got a question, Councillor Hughes?
Just a question on the RAP minutes. It seems we're still having problems getting the external people attending the meetings. Is that still looking at trying to get a time to actually suit our external members, or is there any investigations going there?
Mr. CEO, I know we have a member. Would you like to answer that one, Councillor Hennessy?
Yeah, it is tricky because a lot of our members work full-time in health and education. We are taking advantage of team meetings to bring some in. I think it's still working, and I know our staff member Linda does a lot of individual discussions with members that can't attend. But I think that for me, the reassurance was a recent a forum held by the library where we had a panel of five local Aboriginal people answering some questions. Shows that there is still a commitment to both our RAP group and to the RAP process. So it's just the nature of people's requirements and trying to get this group meeting on a regular basis. So from my point of view as a council rep, I think it's still working.
All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We have no questions on notice. Any questions without notice?
there's any update on the St John Centre, where we are with that, and also in the communique it mentioned about the Free Park area. There was a little bit of a problem. Is there any update on those two particular things, which are right next to each other?
Certainly, I might comfortable, Mr Mayor, give an update on the administration in the confidential piece.
Yes.
But I'm certainly happy to give an update on the RV part. I think it's fair to say that we've been experiencing quite a few challenges with that site, namely people who are not self-contained, saying that the location, there is an issue with rubbish generation, people who I can only suppose that after the toilets are closed are utilising our natural spaces as public amenities, and also people overstaying 48 hours. So you combine that together and you do have some issues. Now, one of the key problems that we've initially identified is that the signage that we initially put up was inadequate and perhaps didn't highlight clearly enough for the patrons about what was permitted and not permitted. So I think the sign's going up today actually, a new sign which will make it leave it to no misinterpretation about what you can and can't do in that location. I do have concerns that even with that signage we will still experience problems, and I guess I should foreshadow that if that continues, I expect not to come back to this chamber and ask for us to close that site down. Because it's not fair to our community to have to deal with people that are effectively abusing their privilege and not using it in the way that we intended. When it's used as per the rules, it's okay, but people are clearly not observing that.
Is there a question?
Probably just to follow on from the first part of my question, which was about St John Centre because of certain damage that was done. When it was vacated, did council cover that with their insurance? Because those damages, by the sound of it, were quite considerable.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Yeah. Whether
I
they
can certainly share that, Mr Mayor. I believe we've lodged our insurance claim I'm not sure whether it's out of the minute. David may know more.
Through the chair, it's still an assessment, but the site was insured under council's insurance, so we're pretty positive of receiving confirmation of the claim being approved, and that will then repair the works that were damaged as a result of that.
The component that I will share in confidence, Mr Mayor, is some approach that were made to us for possible uses of that site.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Hughes?
Just on the RV site, there was actually, over the weekend, there was a shower erected in one of the trees. I don't know how much damage it actually did, but it just seems that, especially on weekends, there's barbecues, there's all sorts of extra camping activities, which my understanding was there wasn't to be any camping. But yeah, certainly people have taken it to be tents and everything else, but yeah, the shower in the tree was another level again over the weekend. Just to highlight.
It's just Saturday when we do something that actually invites people in and was getting quite the right use when it first started, to then have the wrong use ruin it for the rest of the whole reason it was developed in the first place. Frustrating. Councillor Hennessy, you've got a question?
Yeah, aside in work with Councillor White on choosing that site for the RV, I seem to recall that we set it in place for 12 months with a review period. I'd just like to be reminded if that was the case, because I agree the concern and the feedback from both people who use the walking path as well as the near neighbours is starting to become quite intense. It is, as you, in your words, very disappointing, and I think we need to nip it in the bud pretty quickly.
So Councillor Hennessy just asked about the trial duration.
check that, we can check when that happens.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I can certainly bring the report back to council at any time.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly there, so what's the breakdown at the moment of issues which are people who are coming in vehicles and erecting structures which are not supposed to be there versus, I guess, rough sleepers who are camping in Waiawa as well elsewhere in the town?
Well, probably haven't got the scientific breakdown. I would say the majority of people that are doing the wrong thing are not homeless people. The majority, to be fair, are rooftop tents, appear to be the latest state. It is people who clearly can't read or respect what they should be respecting. We have had the odd rough sleeper or homeless person in the location, but to be fair, they have not been the overarching issue.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
Any further questions without notice? No? Thank you very much. Moving on to motions on notice, we have nil. Any motions without notice? Put that down as nil. Now we're just going to move on to council member attendance and activities. Okay, you can see my list there. I've got Angela actually giving me a hand. I'm not doing my homework. I've just figured out we have a PA that helps with that sort of stuff. I'll quickly run through it. I actually, all around in the group meeting, I was actually an apology for, as was rightfully pointed out previously. We have our fortnightly meeting with the Bunyip, which went well. Relay for Life, that was a long night, but a good laugh for a great cause. Invest SA meeting, so a little bit of background work there. Galways Primary, can I just get that screen taken off there? Susie, if I can. Galways Primary School. I've been asked to...
Sorry.
That's okay. I've been asked to speak at a couple of local schools recently, and it's just a good laugh. We get a lot of different questions on local government, what a mayor does. Some of the students expected me to be rolling in a limo, which was a bit surreal, but hopefully I explained the different levels of government and the appetite there and the questions that were getting asked. It was far superior than what I would have been asking in year 4 myself, so it is good to see the education department actually having that appetite at the levels of government. So happy to oblige there. We had a bit of a high-level discussion with Manual School just about their grand plans. Gather round, it was a big weekend. The CEO and myself were lucky enough to go to the Saturday game at the Barossa, where we did our best to fly the Gawler flag while also watching some great footy and talking to anyone and everyone we could about all things Gawler while we're in the Barossa, naturally. And then we were able to go to the Adelaide Oval and accept on behalf of council the $300,000 that we secured part of the SANFL funding rounds, which thank you very much to staff for their hard work in the space, and it's a very good step forward to our Elliot Goodger master plan, and we're able to enjoy the footy match after with Bonnie Lerner and Steve Cleveland, both the president and committee member from Williston. And it was just great seeing their excitement and passion around and what they can do next, and they just seem to be very active at that club. First Nation panel discussion. I was supposed to only be sneaking in and out, but I ended up getting wrapped up there because I couldn't leave. I was just captivated by the conversation, and the phone was going off, and I went, you know what, I'll make those phone calls back. I think the discussion was really good. It was a real educational piece, safe space, and I think the questions were, I don't think they were any out of order, but they also everyone was confident to ask whatever they were thinking at the time. And I think that's a credit to the panel members as well, just to facilitate that conversation. We also caught up with Gawler Central's in just around trying to understand what their overarching vision is with the $250,000 they secured from the state government's election promise for their modular outcome. We're still working through that, and hopefully we can understand a bit more on timeframes and the like after they are able to engage who they need to engage. But it was a good initial conversation regardless. Variety Bash comedy night, the CEO was also there, and great laugh, great people, great cause, and thank you very much, Councillor Lorna, for the invite and all the work you do for the Variety Bash. Anzac Day March, it was a decent turnout, I thought. A good way to respect all the groups that get involved in Anzac Day, and a good lead up. A lot of the questions that I've got are why is the march done a week early? I actually did ask the RSO that, but put simply, it's because there's a big march in the city, so it allows people to go to a local dawn service and then make the big march in the city rather than having competing marches. So as soon as I explained that to people that have asked the question, it makes sense, but I thought I'd take the opportunity now. We attended the CEO and I attended a RDA board workshop on housing. Look, to be completely honest, we probably didn't learn anything too new in regards from the presentation on what we're seeing in Concordia and what we're seeing, Roseworthy Way and visions for Cutler. That's not to say it wasn't a good presentation. That's probably just a credit to what we're doing in the information briefings here locally. But it was a good chance just to sort of touch base with some RDA board members. Dear Laney and I had a good conversation, took the opportunity to strategise a little bit with some Canberra stuff that we're trying to work on as well. I don't really cover anything on the 24th of April, that's all self-explanatory. And the Anzac Day dawn service, I know that a lot of you were present there as well, elected members, and I think you might agree that this was probably one of our bigger turnouts. It just seems to get bigger and bigger. From the Anzac Day service, I quickly ducked off for half an hour at netball, and then I went to the Anzac Day service at Hillier Park, another very successful service. A lot of appetite at the Hillier Park retirement village for getting around Anzac Day. Funnily enough, is I actually wasn't asked to speak. I confirmed that on Friday, but I rolled in to find out I was speaking. So my worst nightmare came true, and I had to give an ad hoc speech on a very important moment, being Anzac Day. I got compliments after, but yeah, look, I'll be prepared in the future, so I might have one in my back pocket, even if I'm told I'm not speaking, regardless. And then I was also at the Williston and South game, which is played on Anzac Day as well. Councillor Davis was also there. I actually was there just as a civilian to, I guess, in lack of a better term, to enjoy my daughter's play netball and help my wife while she was playing netball, watch the footy. But I was also asked to stand on the oval, so there I was, shorts and t-shirt, with a 4-year-old on my hip. But you know what? I think that's a good message to send wearing all. On that note, that's the busy weekend that's just gone, and that's my list. So, moving on to other elected members. Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with you with the First Nations panel discussion, and also the Anzac Day. And like you, I think it's just getting better and better. I'm particularly impressed with the fact that it's now a conglomeration of different organisations. There was a high attendance by schools, a whole range of different organisations coming together, Gawler organisations, so it's brilliant. I also attended the RSL organised John Schumann and Vagabonds concert in the Institute Hall. I think it was a week beforehand. I've never seen that venue as full, and it was a particularly good concert, so just congratulations to the RSL for that. And of course the Gawler 3-day event reunion, we got some information in a communique about, I think it was supposed to last an hour. I'm told that staff were still trying to get the attendees out at least an hour and a half later. So a really good, well-organised event. We've got some more details on the funding of, but again, Glastonbury attendance in town, I think, is going to reap us some rewards around taking a significant event and trying to encourage people to continue to see Gawler as a horse centre in the state. So, yeah, that's my...
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Councillor Davies.
Yeah, just mentioned last night I represented council at the Gawler District College Governing Council meeting. It was also the first official meeting for Mr. James Agnes as the parliamentary rep, which was very fortunate because we had a lot of discussion around, of course, the upcoming technical college and all the planning and how that's all going to be sorted out and physically where it will go and what kind of trades it will offer and everything. That's all coming along really well. So I think that's going to be a very positive thing. And just to mention not an upcoming event, but an upcoming series of events. History Month is coming up, and we have a range of things. Next Thursday, Councillor Hennessy will be presenting on the history of the Pioneer Park at the Gawler History team. So definitely worth going along to that one.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Sorry, Susie, I just saw on my list Australian Air Force, the visual and the movie of Pioneer Park. I was unable to make those. Are they able just to get removed? Thank you very much. So I should have picked up that when the list was sent through to me. Any other attendee? Councillor Hughes?
Just briefly, last Thursday at the Gawler Health Advisory Council meeting, we discussed future growth with the site, but also the importance of actually working with council staff like Stacey and Andrew with planning as well. So there will be an invitation for them to attend a future meeting coming up as well. The Gawler Health Advisory Group have, the site itself has got some parking issues which they're working through, but it will be a while before the Concordia site comes up as the hospital, but there's certainly a lot of growth for the Gawler region within Gawler as well, so work through that.
Still on the wrong side.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. So, just waiting for me to catch up there. Perfect. Do I have any other attendees councillors would like to put on members? Would there be none? On what? We move on with the agenda. Okay, we are now up to our confidential reports. We have, you're having a move into, Councillor Hughes, you got a question?
I've actually got a material conflict of interest. I work for the Country Fire Service, working with the Metropolitan Fire Service, and so we'll be declaring an interest in leaving the RAM on this one.
No worries at all. Thank you. And have you done your paperwork on Councillor Hughes? Not yet. Oh, we don't need it now? Oh, good. Perfect. We'll just let Councillor Hughes leave the room. Okay, at this point in time, I'm looking for a mover to move into confidence. You're happy to move into confidence. Councillor Hennessy, if you'd like to explain why.
Yeah, I'm moving into confidence because this report contains information of disclosure which would reasonably be expected to confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposing to conduct business, or to prejudice the commercial position of council, and would on balance be contrary to the public interest.